Welcome to the Radiate Wellness Podcast. I'm your host, Christy Clemens Hoffman. Each week we will discuss tools, tips, and ways to radiate your best life ever, interviewing practitioners, authors, and luminaries to help you on your path. Wellness, joy, peace, abundance. What do you want to radiate? Before we get started, I just wanted to give a huge shout out and word of gratitude for those who are keeping us going. Everybody who's working in the medical field, all of our doctors and nurses, all of the people working in the hospitals, and all of the people at the grocery stores, convenience stores, and gas stations who are keeping us going. Thank you. That means so much. And to those of us who are confined at home, keep it up. Nobody likes this, and it's not fun, but there's a lot to be gained from it, especially our health. So thank you, everyone. We are in this together. Hi, and welcome to the Radiate Wellness Podcast. I am joined today by Patrice Karst of California to radiate faith. And Patrice, many years ago, had written this book, God Made Easy, which I just absolutely stumbled on through my work with the youth at my church. And it was just so funny how this all came together. But Patrice's story is a story of faith and how things come together. So Patrice, welcome. Thank you for joining me today. I really appreciate it.
Oh, thanks for having me, Christy. Nice to be here.
Yeah, wonderful. So Patrice Karst, of course, is based in California and was a single mom, or is a single mom. And you had this book, God Made Easy. Was this the first book that you wrote?
It was the first actual book. I have been a writer all my life, starting, way back when I was, in grade school writing, stories, made up stories. But yeah, it was my first book. Do you want me to share?
Let's hear this story, because it's a fascinating story.
Yeah, no, it really, I have to pinch myself still that all happened. But basically, I was a single mom. I was living in Pacific Palisades by the beach in Los Angeles, a little area outside of Los Angeles. I was working a full-time job in sales for Whole Life Expos, as a matter of fact. I don't know if you know the Whole Life Expo, the big events that go all around the country. They went on for years and years and years, all kinds of new age, metaphysical, spiritual, holistic, natural products and things. Anyway, so I booked shows all over the country and booked a lot of well-known new age speakers at the time. And anyway, I woke up. It was a Saturday morning. I was sleeping in. My son was 4 at the time. And I woke up out of a dream. It was 6:00 in the morning. And I saw these words just hovering in front of me. God made easy. And I had no idea why I was seeing these words. And I just looked and I thought, how would somebody make God easy? How would you do that? And then I laid my head to go, back to sleep. I had sat bolt upright when I saw it, because I was just trying to figure out what was going on. Laid my head back down to go to sleep. And the next thing I knew, this feeling, I don't even know how to explain it. So I'll just say this feeling came over me, and it was like a voice, like an inner voice. And the voice said, get up, go get a notebook and start writing. And I literally, thank God I didn't go back to sleep, metaphorically and literally. I got a spiral notebook and I started writing and writing and writing. And the next thing I knew, page after page after page, and it was now 7:00 in the morning. I had written my last word, and I'm not going to call it automatic writing or channeled writing, although maybe, because it was me, it was my belief system, my personality, my voice, but there was no thinking. It was like taking dictation. It was just pouring out. And I could never have, if I tried today to write a little book to make God easy. And here's Here's a little book.
Yay!
It is little because that's got to be easy. See, if we were going to make it really complicated, we would be a 400-page book and called God Made Hard. So anyway, I wrote this thing. Now I've got 20 pages or whatever in a spiral notebook. I have no idea what has just happened. And, I thought, what is this? Is this just something for me to learn from? But I reread it and it was really good. And again, that inner voice said, this is going to be a book. It's going to go all over the world. It's going to reintroduce the world to all the wonders of God, for people of all faiths, all religions, or none at all. And your job now is to get it published. And I'm like, what? Am I delusional? I called a few friends when it was an appropriate hour that day and read it to a couple of friends. And they said, oh my God, it's so good. I went to Kinko's on the next day, which was Sunday. I didn't even have a computer. Went to Kinko's, got them to type it all up and laser print it and this and that, because this was before, sending things digitally.
Oh my God, that's
printed it all up, and I went to a bookstore, Barnes and Noble, and I said, okay, I'm gonna look for spiritual books that are small and easy, and I'll I don't even know what I was doing, but I wrote down the name of 3 publishers. I came home the next day, which was Monday. I called up all 3 publishers, and this is truly, Christy, a case of when something is meant to happen. God hearts,
yes,
hearts that opens the doors. You get past the gatekeepers, past the. I didn't even know what I was doing, but I said to whoever answered the phone at the publishing companies, "Hi, my name's Patrice Karst. I've written a mass market book about God. It's going to be huge. I didn't even know what it was, and I'd like to give you the first opportunity to look at it."
Right.
Somehow that day I got past all the gatekeepers, got to the 3 acquiring editors of 3 different publishing companies.
Oh my God.
All 3 of them said, well, what's the title of your book? And I said, God Made Easy. All 3 said, send it. And 3 weeks later, one of them had called me up and said, we'd like 10 cents, sent me a letter and said, we would like to publish your book. Met them, signed the deal, but the story gets even wilder now, right?
Wow.
So, and the other 2 publishing companies loved the book too. So it was like, but this was the first one and I went with it.
Right.
So now I'm thinking, whoa, oh my God. I woke up from a dream. I saw this thing. I wrote this thing. I got a publishing. Now, what do I do now? And then it occurred to me that, well, maybe the reason why you were given this particular gift as an instrument, this particular message, maybe it's because you're a real go-getter and you've got the gift of the gab and you're a promoting kind of you're out there. Maybe this is, you've got to make sure this book sells now, right? So, and interesting, I want to just back up to say one thing that all my life, since I was, I don't know, very, very young, I always had this feeling that there was something that was going to be pretty big that I was going to do, and it was going to be something to help people know about God and love, but I didn't know what it was. So when this happened, I thought, this is my mission. This is it. Okay, finally. Because I had been scratching my head for years going, what am I?
Yeah, it's like I'm doing these fairs, these expos.
And it's great. I'm on the spiritual path. I'd always been on the path,
Right.
and deeply on the path. And so I go out and I get a book called 1,001 Ways to Market Your Book, if you've written a book, right? So now I'm just trying to study what you do if you all of a sudden, I didn't know anything about publishing a book. And one of the things it said is send the manuscript to famous people in the genre of the book that you're publishing, and ask them to write blurbs, to write quotes. So I start, and I had the addresses and emails of a lot of well-known New Age speakers, just because I happen to work at Whole Life Expo. So I sent off the manuscript to their agents, their publicists, this, that, and the other thing. And I started to get back some really, really wonderful quotes from, like John Gray from, Men Are from Mars, Women Are from Venus. I'm looking at my book right now, Bernie Siegel, MD, Barbara DeAngelis, Larry Dossey, people that were really, there was a huge, Daniel Brinkley, just a lot of people from that day. And one of the people I sent it to was Marianne Williamson.
Love her.
Love her, love her, love her, love her. And I'd always been a big fan, and I sent it to her. And I get a phone call. I mean, I'm skipping some details in between all this because it'll be too long, but I'm at my job at Whole Life Expo one day, and I get a phone call. And it's for me, and they put the call through, and it's this gentleman named Al Lohman. And he said, "Hi, Patrice, my name's Al Lohman. I'm Marianne Williamson's literary agent, and I want to make you rich and famous." I'm like, what? What? I thought it was someone pranking me, like, "Oh, yeah, right, Marianne's agent wants to make me rich and famous. Yeah, whose husband is this playing a joke on me?" But he wasn't playing a joke, and through a whole set of things that then happened, I had to get out of my publishing deal, pay him out, buy him out so that I could then publish with Warner. Warner Books bought the book on an auction. They printed it. It came out. It sold like 50,000 copies or something. And I started to get letters and emails, because then email began, from all over the world. The book got published in 1997. And people just telling, I can't even, from doctors, lawyers, and Indian chiefs, Buddhist, Jew, atheist, Christian, Baha'i, everybody, because the book is this little book that talks all about God, but it's the big God. It's not
right. It's not the Lutheran God, the Baptist God, the Buddhist God. Yeah.
Right. I mean, this is, I'll just read you one little bit.
Please.
Really, you know what I should do is just read the book. It would take 5 minutes to read the whole book.
But, yes, please. Yes, please.
Really? Okay, so God Made Easy by moi in collaboration with On High.
With the person upstairs, that thing upstairs, yes.
Right. And the book is dedicated to the hope and vision that all the beings in all the worlds will one day be happy. Now, remember, this book was written 23 years ago, so some of it may sound a little bit dated, but I don't think so, because it's, well, you'll see. When I talk about killer bees, just change it to vanishing bees and we'll be all good.
I remember killer bees, yes, and vanishing bees now, yes.
Now it's vanishing bees. So in case you haven't noticed, the whole world is feeling pretty crazy lately on every level. Mm-hmm. Isn't that interesting? That was 23.
Yes, it is. It still is.
Environmental nightmares, global weird weather and natural disasters, crime, hate, economic strife, drug addictions, alcoholism, technology growing so fast you can't keep up, wars, starvation, AIDS, killer bees, vanishing bees. We're running on a treadmill that's going faster and faster. Changes are happening. It's time to remember. Has it gotten your attention yet?
Oh, absolutely.
Hey, whoa, stop. There's good stuff too. Yep, you're right. It's all here on planet Earth. Just to name a few. Rainbows, shooting stars, babies, sex, hot fudge, canyon. Good comedy. You get the idea. But guess what? There's someone who's gotten really bad press, a bad rap all these years. In fact, a lot of us can't even say the name without a bunch of religious dogma pouring through us, none of which has anything to do with him, her, it, by the way. And maybe during all this insanity, it's time we all got reacquainted. In fact, maybe that's been part of the problem, forgetting. Introducing once again, back by popular demand and need, God. He, she, it, whatever you're comfortable with, was never really gone, by the way, just forgotten in all the chaos and confusion. And wait, before you get all charged up and your buttons pushed out of shape, the great news about God is that he has absolutely no ego and will be perfectly content if you wish to call him instead Goddess, Supreme Being, Heavenly Father, or even Big Dad, Divine Mother, the Creator, Lord, Holy Spirit, Higher Power, the man upstairs, a loving presence. There's more. Almighty, infinite intelligence, universal energy, cosmic consciousness, the light within, the source, or something bigger than me. You get the idea. Just fill in the blank. And I even have a little blank for them to fill in. Just fill in the blank with any name you want. Trust me, you'll have a better life. Just fill in the blank. And here's some more good news. There's no one religion or spiritual path that has the exclusive with God. He is the ultimate independent contractor. So therefore, even if you hear him called Gaia, Mother Earth, Allah, Krishna, Buddha, Lakshmi, Christ, Great Spirit, Shiva, Kuan Yin, Rama, Jehovah, Kali, Adonai, and the many others, they're all true and it's all okay. One God, many different names. Don't worry, he has absolutely no problem with us. Just some fearful, bossy people that feel it's their job to tell you who God is or isn't. So how do you get to know this God anyway? Now the fun begins. Oh, and by the way, the less intellect here, the better. To find God, you got to get real simple. What's really great is God is everywhere, and there's nowhere that he isn't. One place you can start, if you're into books, is reading the one. I skipped it. One place you can start if you're into reading is the books. Once again, folks, no one book has the only true story, the only right truth. Some possibilities. The Bible, the Quran, the Torah, the Bhagavad Gita, the Upanishads, various spiritual, metaphysical, New Age titles. One thing, though, books can give you an idea, but to really get up close and personal, you've got to get your head out of the books and into nature. You'll see God and his handiwork all over. Every bird, rock, tree, stream. Hey, have you ever really looked at a flower? Get quiet. You'll hear him in the silence. Babies. Just hang out with babies or small children. Get real goofy with them and let go. Voila, God. Going inside. Start a running dialogue with him. He is, after all, the nearest and the dearest. Just start talking to, crying to, laughing with, asking why, praying to him. No formality needed. Just take the plunge. Next time you're feeling sad or scared or lonely, trust he's listening and tell him what's up. Then, real important, shut up and listen. Doesn't matter where you are, in bed, at the bus stop, making up your kid's lunchbox, or if you want to get real fancy, make an altar, light a candle, burn incense, put groovy holy music on, and meditate. The point is, expect to hear him, then get quiet and give him a chance to respond. Churches, temples, shrines, sacred spots, lots of good God energy here. Great music, art, writings. Ain't no way, no how a human can do that without some kind of help from above. Case closed. Acts of kindness, love, support. When we humans are at our best and our hearts are all warm and fuzzy inside, you know who's at work again. Your own conscience. You know that inner stuff that says, uh-oh, don't do that, or stay away from him, or gosh, she looks like she could use a hug. Well, guess who's prompting you? The breath. No science allowed, please. It has its place, but in the grand scheme of things, unbelievably limited. Guess what? 24 hours a day, something is making that heart of yours pump and is breathing your lungs in and out, in and out. Follow it back inside. Miracles, the phone call that comes at the perfect second, being rescued at the last moment, those impossible coincidences that give you God bumps, goosebumps, God bumps. Start watching for them. You'll see even more. Food. Hey, there's got to be something pretty wonderful in charge of things growing out of dirt that tastes that good. Period. Animals. The colors, the varieties, the sounds, the shapes, all living, breathing, sharing our world. Who do you think made them? So, why all the bad stuff? I know. If there really is a God, why all the crap? All the suffering? Good question. Karma, balance, lessons to learn. Somewhere, sometime, somehow, for every action, there was and is a reaction. Also known as what you sow, you shall reap, or cause and effect. Not always fun, sometimes downright painful, excruciating, yucky. Doesn't mean you can't get mad, pissed off at God. He doesn't even mind if you scream at him. Remember, no ego. Perhaps a lot of it remains a mystery till the end. Perhaps we can't understand it all right now with our limited human minds. You just have to trust that there's order in the universe and that all will make sense eventually. What else are you going to do? Earth is a school, a place we come to learn what we need to so that we finally get it right, graduate once and for all, and go somewhere else. Now, the best part of all. We're going home. This does not mean that you don't enjoy the ride down here on Earth to its fullest. It just means there's something really big to look forward to. Call it whatever you want. Heaven, nirvana, Shangri-La, bliss, the astral plane, over there. Spirit world, the other side. The great beyond, from whence I came. Oh, and by the way, the whole hell thing, unless you've been the worst, most murderous, hideous, evil monster that ever lived, I really wouldn't worry about it. And even if you were, everyone eventually is given a chance to rehabilitate. Worst case, if you weren't great in this lifetime, you might have to come back and do it all over again. Maybe. So now, imagine a place with no suffering. None. No cellulite. No physical illness or injuries. No death. No questions unanswered. No longing not met. Colors, smells, sights, and sounds that are more beautiful than your wildest imaginings. Being able to go from here to there, anywhere in the cosmos at will. Seeing and being with all you've ever loved. Hanging out with God on a daily basis, effortlessly. Being happy all the time. Doing and learning whatever you want. No cold, no fears, no tears. Wait just a minute. Sounds too good to be true. Can't be, you say. Who the heck is this girl? And how could she make a promise like this? Anyway, how dare she? Well, guess what? It's all true. Absolutely every word. I can't prove it to you. That's where this faith thing comes in, our theme of the day.
Yes, it is.
But quite simply, this has been the message since the beginning of time. We're only here on Earth for a short while, and then we go home. And home is incredible. So if I'm wrong, sue me. You won't need to. Okay. So what to do while we're still here? Real simple. Read on. Be kind to all, especially to yourself. The golden rule applies here, also known as do unto others as you would have them do unto you. All religions and languages have their own version of this rule, by the way. It's a universal thing. Find and get to know God. Your own heart is the best place to start. Have fun. There's so much to do, to be, and to see here. You might as well make the most out of your visit. And as they say, you only go around once, at least in this body. Care about what matters. Hint, at the end, you won't remember or care much about the money you made, but you will about who you loved and who loved you back. This will become obvious when you start tuning in. Just remember, all you can take with you is who you became and what you learned on your journey. The rest is Maya, illusion. Be authentic. Speak your truth. God created you to be uniquely different from anyone else. He had reasons. Don't mess with the program. Try to develop an attitude of gratitude. When you start to see your life in this way, you'll be amazed at how different it can look. Don't hold grudges. Life really is too short. Forgiveness is a good thing. And anyway, it feels so much better. Hang out in the present, not the future, not the past. Each moment is his gift. Why do you think it's called the present? Start to surrender. You may know this as thy will be done, or let go and let God. The fact is that he who created butterfly wings and the Himalayan mountains knows his stuff. You may want to let him lead for a change. Look for the lessons. Learn all you can. Get wise, but stay humble. Lastly, look toward the journey home. Your soul, your being is here for all eternity. So don't sweat the small stuff. God bless. Peace be with you. Enjoy the ride. Shalom. Hallelujah. Namaste. Walk in grace and beauty. Om. Peace. Amen. And maybe, just maybe, if we each do our part, and with a little help from him, this wonderful spinning blue orb on which we all find ourselves can finally heal. Remember, we're all in this together. More will be revealed. And never, ever forget, you are loved. And that's the end.
Patrice,
A little longer than 5 minutes. I haven't read that book out loud in I can't even tell you how long. And yeah, it was a good book, huh?
That is really fun. And
it didn't come from me. It didn't like
exactly.
I mean, it did, but it didn't. It just
before 8 o'clock in the morning.
6 o'clock. Yeah, 1 hour. 1 hour exactly.
Yeah.
And thank God, and this is what I tell people too, because you know what? It is so easy to go back to sleep. I wanted to go back to sleep. I was tired. I was a single mom of a 4-year-old special needs kid. I was tired. But just like in life, but to me, the beautiful metaphor of the whole thing, besides that it started my whole career as an author and I finally knew what I was here to do and all that. And then it turns out that the book that actually was the book that blew up was The Invisible String.
Wow.
Which is like sort of a children's version, but a much simpler version that we're all connected by love. But the message I want to tell people is when you get an inspiration, people say to me all the time, oh, I've got a book in me. And so I say to them, well, get the book out of you, put it on paper.
It's doing no good to anybody.
Yeah.
But
You don't need to be born with a special gene that's the author gene. There is no such thing. If you have, whatever your thing is, whether it's writing a book or starting a business or, just that inner voice, that little nudge, that little thing, that tiny little voice that said, go get a notebook and start writing. Like why that morning did I pay attention to? I mean, I remember the moment of going, I'll do it later, and then it poured through. So I don't know. I just think it's important to stay woke, like literally. When God wakes you up, note to self, stay woke.
Did you know that Radiate Wellness has a subscription-based premium content Facebook group? Think of it like the premium version of this free podcast. In this premium Facebook group, you can find great content like replays of online classes, meditations on angels, chakras, mindfulness, and more, guest speakers, mini classes, polls, plus you'll be the first to know of guests that we have scheduled for the podcast and can submit questions for them. You get all of this great content for one low monthly price, and the first month is half off. You can subscribe by going to radiatewellnesscommunity.com/shop. Click the subscriptions button and you're in. Also, while I have your attention, wherever you're listening to this free podcast, if you could just do us a couple of favors, please. One is go to hit the subscribe or follow button. Then you'll be notified of all of the episodes we have coming out each week. Also, please rate and review. It sounds really simple, but it helps us to grow our audience when people are looking for great podcasts. And when we grow our audience, we can do bigger and better things and bring you even more great guests. So please do those couple of things, and that will help us grow this audience and this podcast. Thank you so much for listening.
Oh, that's excellent advice. Well, and have that faith. I mean, that's what we're talking about today is have faith. It's like, okay, I don't know why I'm doing this. I feel like I need to. I'm feeling pushed. Here's the notebook. Here's the pen. What are you waiting for? And we just have to have faith that something's going to, it doesn't matter what happens with it, but we just know faith that something's going to happen. There's going to be a reason why we're doing this.
Follow your instructions. Follow where you're guided. Follow where you're led. Follow your heart. We've heard all these things, and for me, the amazing was that after the book came out and I started getting literally these letters from all over the world, from as young as children drawing the picture of God and mailing it to me, their version of God, to, 98-year-olds in nursing homes writing to me that they had found the book somehow. And I mean, each letter was more remarkable than the one before. So it was really incredible. And interestingly, like I said, The Invisible String is the book that now is what's, pays all my bills and what keeps me busy all day long, and the subsequent children's books. It's just so interesting that when you offer yourself up to be an instrument of God's, sometimes it'll come through one way and then another way, and then this way will stop and it'll come through that way, but you just remain willing to be the instrument, whatever it is.
Yeah, when we submit to God and know that it's not just us. I mean, talk about divorcing the ego and sending the ego out the door and just educate ourselves.
And that ego is a boy, it's always coming back in.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, I must add, I worked for a publishing company, a major publishing company based here in Kansas City for 14 years. And that is not usually how books get made.
No, I know. Believe me.
Pretty remarkable.
It was from the moment, and there's so many more stories. There was also the cross light that showed up, and that it's been a wild journey, and it's as we're going through this collectively, we're all going through this pandemic
experience. Yes, mm-hmm.
And it's almost like those of us that have been on the path for a long time, which I sense you have also, we all knew that there would come a time in our lifetimes. We intuited, we sensed that something big was going to happen in our lifetime, that we had chosen to incarnate at a very powerful time in history. And boy, boom, we don't have to wonder anymore. It didn't happen in the way we may have thought on December 21st, 2012. Or when Y2K happened, or these different moments, or the harmonic convergence. Although I was there at Mount Tamalpais in Mill Valley at the top of Mount Tam during the harmonic convergence. But we knew this period of time was going to happen when something really big was going to change the world, and we are in it right now. We are,
Yeah.
Could you have ever imagined anything like this in your lifetime?
And it is collective. It's not just one part of the world is going through something. No, we are all going through this, and it is big. It is really big. And
we don't know where it's going to lead. We can only, the thing that comforts me when I find myself incredibly distressed about all of this is that faith, that God, that the creator of all things, he, she, it, they, that makes the stars sparkle in the sky at night and the tides roll in, and is obviously has this, God has this, and he, it, they, she. I hate having to always do that. It's just that
I know
we don't have a word in the English language, a pronoun that I don't want to say God. I don't want to call God it. It is there to love it. I like giving it a personal, so I call it he, but I'm just, for the sake of not having to go he, she, it, I'm going to call it he, but please, it doesn't mean that I think of God as a male, it's just a pronoun. But God knows what he's doing. And this squirmy, uncomfortable, and believe me, I'm uncomfortable. Some people seem to be doing great in their isolation. They're creating and they're cooking and they're working out at home. And I read my newsfeed on Facebook and I'm like, oh my God, I'm sitting here going, what the hell? What's happening? No, I'm being productive too, but I have my moments of weeping and feeling completely frustrated by certain things the government's choosing to do and getting all, feel like my rights are, we're all like, and then I'm watching on Facebook all the people, there's so much arguing back and forth. And so it's hard in the moment when you're seeing all this and, lines in the stores and you don't know when you're going to get back to work and people are suffering and sick and dying. And it's a mess, but I have to keep remembering this is all happening for the greater ultimate good of the planet. And otherwise it wouldn't be occurring. And
yes, we will get through this. We get through a lot of things, and we are all in this together. If there's nothing else that's going to show us how we are connected, it's going to be this.
Isn't it? And did you know that the invisible web, wait, I should show you a picture.
Right, which you're going to be joining us for virtual Sunday school to read the invisible web. Yes. Talk about that.
Invisible web. Well, it's so amazing because the book just came out April 14th. So it literally just
came out,
released to the world. And it's all about our global universal connection to one another and how we're all connected by our invisible strings made of love. This is the invisible string. Because there was the paperback and then there's the hardback too, right? The original hardback looks like this. I don't know if you've ever seen this one. And it's still out.
That's the one we have. That's the one so I read that book.
That's the hardback, and this is the paperback that came out last year. Same story, just different art.
Right.
Same story. Mm-hmm. And then came the Invisible Leash, which is about our connection to our beloved animals. And we're still connected to them in the beyond, and they really are.
Yeah, they are.
It's real. The Invisible Leash is real. And I wrote it as my own little wiener dog Coco was passing away. And my own book helped me. It really did. I was like, oh, my own book is helping me. And then came the Invisible String Workbook, which is so good for kids that are at home right now, especially. Takes the message of the invisible string to the whole next level. There's so many creative activities and art things they can do and games and puzzles and mazes, and it's wonderful. And then, so the Invisible Web came out.
Right.
Just came out. And then in December, I don't have it yet because it's not been published yet. I have a little board book for babies coming out, which is like an invisible string lullaby. And it's called You Are Never Alone, because it's a message that if we can let children know from as young as they are that they will never be alone, ever. It's very comforting. It's a thing that as a child I didn't have. So they always say that you write and you speak and you teach about that which you most need to have or to learn. And I came from a very, very painful childhood, a lot of abuse, emotional abuse, and my parents were mentally ill. I was raised in England until I was 8 and came to the States. And, it's not lost on me, the irony that the one theme, if you will, the one core issue I've had and did have growing up was this feeling of being very alone, like I'm all alone in the world because I couldn't relate to my parents. My brother was not well either. And so it's an irony. Sometimes I have to remember to read my own book, just the invisible string. And, and I wrote that book for my son because I was a single working mom, and he was going to preschool and would cry when I would take him.
Of course.
And oh God, then he cried, then I cried, and we were both crying.
It's the worst, yeah.
Worst. So I just one day told him what was obvious to me, which was that we were connected by an invisible string. And I said, just tug on the invisible string and I'll feel it. And then I'll tug it back and you'll feel it. And he was like, his eyes,
yeah,
have an invisible string? And I said, we sure do. And that was it. That was the last of his separation anxiety.
Oh.
Every day, mom, you know, I'm going to be pulling on the string. Don't forget. Oh, honey. And then at the end of the day, I'd say, hey, I felt you pulling on the string. And he'd giggle. And then all his little friends wanted to hear about it. And I remember them saying, I read them the story, you know, I told them the story. And they were like, oh, we have invisible strings. And that was when I knew I had something that was a tangible explanation of an abstract idea. Love is abstract. You know, it's what is love?
You can't see it. You can't
invisible string.
Yeah.
They can, and then it became, you know, so the book got published. I went to the same publisher that had originally signed the deal way back when for God Made Easy, who now didn't have God Made Easy. But I said, you know, Gary, I wrote a children's book, and he ended up reading it. Never did a kid's book, you know. And he published it. No advertising, no publicity. He was a tiny, tiny publisher. And it sold, you know, the Invisible String sold. It did really, you know, did well for a book with a small publisher. And then about 10 years ago, it's like the 100th monkey effect. I don't know what happened, because no paid advertisements, nothing. And all of a sudden I started to get emails from doctors and lawyers' offices and hospice workers and therapists and school counselors, librarians, principals, the prison system, the foster organizations, adoption groups, bereavement, you know, camps. I was like, all of a sudden, everybody was talking about the invisible string, and it just blew up. And that's when my life really started to change. I, you know, as a full, you know, I could now be a full-time author and now a kid's author. I mean, who knew? I wrote that book because it was just for my son. It wasn't, I never had any plans on having a career as a children's author. And again, we follow the horse in the direction that it's going, you know, and if the horse was going down, all of a sudden the kids' book was doing amazingly. And I began to realize that for me, I've always liked things simplified. You know, I don't like 500-page books. I don't. I get overwhelmed. I mean, I read them, but if they're really good, I can handle a 500-page book, but usually it gets pretty boring, right? For me, I like things simple. So obviously I wrote God Made Easy, you know, nice and simple. I'm not Marianne, or, you know, I didn't, not Marianne. Marianne didn't channel A Course in Miracles. She teaches it, but the person that got Course in Miracles, that was their assignment, was to channel that book. I'm so glad mine was God Made Easy. God knew I had a very short attention span. And I've always said, you know, I think that the most important lessons in life we could all learn if we just read children's books.
Yeah,
because they teach everything. And that's the phenomena of Invisible String too, is that adults buy it for each other. Adult spouses, you know, spouses for each other, adult kids for their adult parents, and vice versa. It's become like a thing. So even though it's a kid's book.
Oh, that's beautiful. Well, I remember, I mean, when my kid went to kindergarten, well, she always had separation anxiety in preschool. When she went to kindergarten, it just didn't really let up. And she went to a foreign language school where they were speaking a different language every day. And she was overwhelmed. And it's so hard to drop her off. And then one of the parents had mentioned the invisible string. And here we are, full circle. She's in 7th grade now.
Wow. Oh,
and
my heart.
It helped at a time. I'm going to start crying here. It helped at a really hard time. And she had a difficult time the first half of the year. And I thought, my God, what have I done? And then that book helped so much. And I don't know if it came out of this book, but I think it did, because when I Google the invisible string, it comes up, you place a kiss in their hand.
Yeah, no, there's actually another children's book, and I think it's called The Kissing Hand, which is a lot of the same readers buy Invisible String and The Kissing. There's about 5 really good bereavement books, but, for children that are just, and it's so important because, when I say bereavement book, I mean, even though Invisible String is so well known for loss and separation anxiety and grief and this and that, it's also a book that's used for celebrations, baby showers, and graduations. It's a way of
staying connected.
Connected. I mean, I can't even tell you the stories I've had. One that came to mind was a woman wrote me whose son went off to college, and she was just said goodbye. He literally drove himself off in the car, crying and crying, and she can't. Now I'm going to cry. She came over to her computer and opened it up, and he had left a piece of string on the keyboard with a little note to never forget about the invisible string. I was like, I love those. I just, amazing stories. And it's such a simple concept. And we are all connected by our invisible strings. And when all of those strings intersect and interlink and interlace, we have the invisible web. We really live in this web of love, and one movement can go all the way through the entire web and reach someone on the other side of the world. We are that connected. We're not just connected by a virus. We're connected by a love virus, and it too is contagious, right?
Right.
It's very contagious, and that's a really good thing because love is exactly, it's what brings us all together. And I think that that's what hopefully, this pandemic is going to do.
I think so too. When some random person in China gets it, and then we end up having it all the way around the world, there's no denying that we're connected.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So you grew up in a difficult household. You had a really hard time early on. Where did you learn about God? What type of spiritual upbringing did you have?
Religious wise, I was born Jewish, but we didn't really follow the religion, but I was Jewish. It was, there was not much talk about God in my household at all. My mother did have a fascination with the supernatural, and mediumship and spirits and this and that, but it was just more like a hobby fascination. I was in so much pain, as a young little girl in England. And I remember distinctly looking up at the stars at night, and I knew, just as much as I know that I'm sitting in this chair right now talking to you, I knew that I hailed from those stars. That's where I was from. And God became this universal infinite presence that created all the stars and everything. I knew that this being was my real mother and father. And I went to this being instead of to my mom and dad for help. So I would lay in bed at night and commune from such a young age with God. So I just always knew God. There was never any doubt. I did, however, feel betrayed sometimes and hurt and sad that God, of all the mummies and daddies in the world, could have given me to these really brutal people. God bless them. God rest their soul. They're both deceased now. But, and they had their own horrors. My father had found his father hanging when he was a young boy, dead in a bathroom. And both my parents had lost their parents at a very early age, and both were sent into the country to be evacuated from the war. My father, upon coming back, saw his school being bombed. I mean, just lots of trauma. And, so they did the best that they could. But as a little girl, I just remember going to other kids' houses, other little girlfriends' houses, and they had such loving moms and dads. There was, "Hi, Patty." I was Patty. Patrice is my real name, but I was Patty at the time. "Hi, Patty. How are you?" And there wasn't that kind of, I was never asked how I was in my house. So I did go through a period of feeling confused as to why this same God that created peacock feathers and seashells and kittens could create pain. And that was when I began to realize that bad things happen in this world, accidents and diseases and traumas. And I could not, for the life of me, figure out why this same God that created such beauty would allow such pain. And that is when my spiritual path began in earnest. I began a search as a seeker to find out who this God was that, was either bipolar and was a Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, or he must have some good reasons for the shitty things that happen on this planet. And that's when I learned about karma and lessons as souls we choose to learn from the other place where, and then we're down here with amnesia going, I don't remember why I came here. What did I come to learn?
Why did I sign up for this? Yeah.
It's the only thing that began to make sense. And that's when I began to really understand the deeper meanings of spirituality. A lot of people these days, I've seen spirituality from me, being on the path since, I don't know how old, 4 years old, maybe 3 years old, I don't remember. And at the time, I didn't even know, there were no words new age or metaphysical. I remember coming into that when I was a teenager, there started to be this word, there were metaphysical bookstores, new age bookstores. There was two in all of Los Angeles, the Bodhi Tree, which was on Melrose in West Los Angeles, pretty famous bookstore, and another one, the Ginkgo Leaf in Northridge. And here I was like 16, 17 years old, and spending my days, hours at these metaphysical bookstores, poring over everything from astrology to tarot to crystals to reincarnation to the esoteric teachings. And it was a wild time. And now, it's like there's a yoga studio on every corner and namaste and then people believing that spirituality is all about what you can manifest for yourself, like God's some bellhop that you're going to give orders to, put in your order and he's going to run and make sure you get it. And, it's so not about manifesting, that's nice, but that's not what the spiritual path is really all about. It's realizing who you are and why you came to this earth and what your lessons are to learn and love. And if some nice manifesting happens along the way, well, good on you, but, good luck with that. I think, we have a thing called destiny, which sort of overrides our wish list. It may even be better than our wish list, but, I take issue with some of the, spirituality is asking God for whatever you want. It's like,
oh, you must be on the path. You manifested the perfect sweater.
Yeah, or if you have cancer, wow, you didn't think right. You didn't think right. Look what you manifested. And it's just,
wow.
Yeah.
Absolutely. No, I love your viewpoints. They match up with mine so much, and that everything is a miracle. Everything around us is something that we can draw from, we can learn from, we can use, and everything around us is just miraculous. And that's what I love about God Made Easy, is that it's miraculous how simple this is,
And it poured through me. So you heard it now. I've read it to you. There was no thinking. I didn't even dot I's or cross T's, and all in cursive. Remember cursive? Just like all handwritten out.
Right.
Yeah, but I need to get that book published again because it's out of print. If anyone wants it, they have to go to my website to order it from me, or they can on Amazon. I think there's some used people selling it, but I have all 600 copies left because I took it out of print after a few years.
Right.
Because I thought, well, it sold a lot of copies, but now not that much. I'm not doing much with it. It's not, it's not doing much.
Right.
I found out that the publishing companies all have imprints, as you know, right?
Right.
And the imprint that published this was Warner Treasures, and Warner Treasures was no more. It had been dissolved.
Right.
So I thought, so there was no one promoting the book. There was nothing happening. So I got the rights back, bought the last 1,400 copies of the books from the publisher. And now I really need to get it republished because it's still timely. It's still,
need it more than ever.
I know, because God is, it's again, and it's so interesting because when I published it, when I was out doing book signings, and the only people that ever were angry at me for this book were the fundamental born again Christians who said, how dare you put Jesus in the same category as Buddha or Krishna or, what have you. And so they didn't like the book so much, but because I had made God accessible to all religions, but everyone else loved it. So, hey,
Okay. Well, they're the people who are really that fundamental and that closed in their views. They're going to find fault with just about anything that you put out there. So, but it is very accessible, and I think that we do make God too complicated. God is a lot easier than what we.
Absolutely. I just splashed lemonade in my eyeball, so don't mind me. I'm gonna get a tissue. Now my mascara. See, live. We're not live, right? Doesn't matter.
No, we're not live. Nah, we've got a good.
Note to selves: do not splash lemonade in your eyeball because it feels really weird. Anyway, here we are. I don't know if it's all blurry here now. My black smudge nail.
You know what? It's like day 5,000 of quarantine or something like that.
Day 5,000. I'm so over it. It's Groundhog Day.
It's Groundhog.
And all these Zoom calls. I'm like zoomed out. But it's good. I'm glad we're Zooming together. But I miss real people.
I know. I want to give you a hug right now.
Okay.
Hilarious. I air hug.
We're tugging on the invisible string, right?
Yes. Here's my invisible string. So anyway, now we're getting slap happy. So let's talk about your website. We can find you at, what's your website?
PatriceKarst.com. So it's PATRICE Karst, KARST.com. PatriceKarst.com.
PatriceKarst.com.
And there's all kinds of good stuff in here.
Oh my God. It's a great website.
I tell the story of God Made Easy, and you can see all my other books. And
you can signed copies too.
Yes.
So we'll put the link in the show notes along with your bio.
Great.
And I'm just really excited. I mean, it was just so happenstance, but of course there are no coincidences. So happenstance with how we connected. I just happened to read Invisible String for our virtual Sunday school, and we connected over that. And now you're going to be coming in and reading the Invisible Web for Sunday school. So it's just unity. We've just I love it. A new world is being born as you and I speak. It is. And I'm so pleased that you're in it. Thank you so much for joining me today, Patrice. It's been...
Thank you, Christy. God bless. And to all your listeners and readers, mwah.
Thank you.
Radiate Wellness is a community of holistic and alternative healers and consultants based in the Kansas City area, dedicated to helping you create spiritual, energetic, and physical well-being. To learn more about our practitioners, services, classes, and events, or to schedule an appointment, visit us at radiatewellnesscommunity.com.